Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining today's virtual event. As a dedicated volunteer with AARP, I'm delighted to welcome you to a virtual event that's close to our hearts. Our mission at AARP is to enrich the quality of life for individuals as they age through proactive advocacy, impactful service, and the dissemination of valuable information that champions positive social change. In today's event, we're diving into the dynamic concept of disrupt aging. Disrupt aging is about celebrating the diversity of aging experiences through personal stories, images, and a variety of perspectives, fostering a community that is not defined by a single voice, but is inclusive of the many voices advocating for change. Together, we'll challenge outdated beliefs about aging and to ignite new solutions for a future where every individual can age with dignity, purpose, and endless possibilities. Let's engage, learn, and be inspired to view aging through a new lens. Welcome to this journey of discovery and transformation. We also invite you to join the AARP volunteer team to make a difference in the caregiving community.
Hi everyone, I am Amy Carey. I am coming to you from Morton, Illinois, and I am going to show you a classic Southern staple today. It's going to be shrimp and grits. So I think dishes that caretakers are preparing for people these days don't need to be overcomplicated. I think fewer ingredients are important factors. I think also, though, a lot of flavor is very important because it will keep everybody interested in eating the dish and eating the food. So that is my goal with this dish today. So what we're going to be making is grits, which is just a ground corn, and we're going to just jump right in. I'm going to go ahead and put my grits in a pan. I am going to then add some chicken stock. I'm going to add a bay leaf and some salt, 4 ingredients, and that gets it right on the stove and going, as simple as that. Salt is going to season the chicken stock. I'm using chicken stock instead of water because, again, chicken stock or broth is going to bring more flavor than water. You can use this with water if you don't have chicken stock or broth on hand, but again, I'm talking about amping up the flavor so everybody can enjoy the meal ever so much more. That's all we're going to do. We're going to bring this to the boil, and when we do, we're going to go ahead and cut the heat and cover it and let the grits steep. So, moving on, the other half of the dish is shrimp. So I've got some shrimp right here. I am going to show you something I bet you didn't know before. Shrimp, even when you buy the deveined shrimp, also have a second vein that nobody probably has told you about. So I have here a store-bought deveined shrimp, which means they've cut a slit through the top and removed that top dark vein. However, if we peel this, I'm going to show you that the shrimp also have a vein on the underside. Bad news, right? So we're going to go ahead and get rid of that the same way we would get rid of the top one. I've got just a little paring knife right here. I'm going to go ahead and make a slit down the inside or the underside of that shrimp, exposing that vein right there in all its yuckiness. And I'm going to go ahead and just set that aside. I'm going to show you that one more time. I'm going to take the shell off. Mine was deveined but shell on, so I'm going ahead and taking the shell off. And then I'm going to go reach to the underside one more time, make a cut just deep enough to expose that vein, and I'm going to use the tip of my knife to just pop that out. I'm going to pull that out. Now, those little veins are also sticky, so it might be a good idea to go ahead and have some paper towels on hand, and then you can just run your finger across the paper towel and get rid of that pesky little vein. So that is my shrimp. Of course, I want to season my shrimp, so I have seasonings right here, if you can see them hopefully. I've got some seasoned salt, I've got some garlic powder, I've got onion powder, I have smoked paprika, and I have black pepper. This is my favorite seasoning blend for shrimp. If you don't have these particular seasonings, no big deal. Salt, pepper, and garlic powder is good enough. It doesn't really matter as long as you just add some flavor to the shrimp and season them up. Salt, however, is very important of some kind or another. Getting those grits a stir just until they come up to a boil. So I'm going to go ahead and take my seasoning blend and mix that up so everybody's incorporated. Hope everybody's having a good day today. And I'm going to take that seasoning mix and I'm just going to sprinkle that over my shrimp. And I'm going to give that a good toss. Make sure every little bit of that shrimp is coated in that flavoring. And in the meantime, my grits have come to a boil. So all I did was turn the heat off. And I'm going to grab my top and put it on there. And we're just going to let it sit for 10 minutes and let those grits absorb that delicious stock. All right, I'm going to go ahead and add all my seasoning because there's no reason why you shouldn't. I'm going to toss my shrimp right here. And I'm going to set that aside for the moment. Okay, next I am going to work with some vegetables. I've got an onion here. I've got some garlic. I've got some tomatoes. And I've got some spinach. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to dice my onion. So when I dice an onion, I always keep the root end, the little hairy end of the onion intact. It holds all of the leaves or the petals of the onion together. If you cut this end off and start trying to cut the onion, they may slide on you and it becomes a little bit less safe. So I'm going to go ahead and take the top end off. Now I'm going to cut it in half down through the root, and that gives me a nice easy place to start peeling. And I'm going to get the outer skin off, and I'm going to do that to the other side as well. Just go ahead and peel that. If you compost, these onion skins are perfect for compost. If you make homemade stock or broth, vegetable, chicken, what have you, these onion skins will actually give you a beautiful golden color to your stock, more so than just using plain onions. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start by making a couple of horizontal cuts in my onion. I'm going to go back towards the root but not through it. I'm going to do that one more time. Of course, I'm keeping my fingers away from that blade. I'll do that here. And I'm going to want my dice of onion to be big enough to where we're going to have pieces or see pieces in our final dish. So I don't want to make too many cuts into the onion. The more cuts you make, the smaller the dice will be. Next, I'm going to come through and just do some quick vertical cuts. Again, going back to the root, but not going through it. Same to the other onion, or the other half. And again, this root is keeping everybody together. Now, I just turn this sideways like this, and I just come straight down. And voila, everybody is diced. Do that one more time over here. And then we'll move on to our garlic. So there's our onion. You'll probably notice me blinking a lot right now because that was a doozy of an onion. Woo! Okay, next we're going to mince some garlic. So you've got a clove of garlic right here. I tend to cut that top end off because it's not good to eat, and it also gives me a good starting point for peeling the garlic. Once again, sometimes getting your fingers in to start peeling these is one of the more difficult tasks versus actually cutting, dicing, or mincing the actual object. So here we go. I've got just about all the skin off. And garlic is such an important ingredient. It brings so much flavor to the table. So here we go. I'm just going to go ahead and start making some thin slices in my garlic. And then I simply put all those together and give it a nice little chop like this. A nice pretty little mince. Just always pushing the garlic back into a little pile and going back and forth again, back and forth again. We want to get this relatively fine because it's not going to spend a lot of time in the skillet. So I don't want anybody to get a big piece of garlic. I want to go ahead and get this into a pretty fine mince. Garlic's good in small doses, not large ones. All right, that's looking pretty good there. I'm pretty satisfied. All right, next, I'm going to go ahead and remove this to give myself a nice working area for my next ingredient, which is the tomato. I've got Roma tomatoes here because that was what was looking freshest when I was out shopping, but you can use any tomato you want. If you've got a beefsteak, or you know, you could even cut up little cherry tomatoes. That would work. Take off that end, do the same over here, get rid of those. And now we'll go ahead and slice my tomatoes. Okay. So shrimp and grits have been around for years. Grits have been around for years, and I like grits. A lot of people eat them for breakfast. My dad loves them for breakfast. But I like a more savory version. So as we progress through the recipe, you will see that instead of just maybe butter or butter and sugar that some people like, I'm going to actually be flavoring these grits with Parmesan cheese and with some heavy cream as well as butter. So we're going to make them nice and super savory and super rich. I don't think there's any problem with a couple of extra calories in a dish as long as it's giving some nice nutrition and a nice hearty feeling to the dish. So there we go. We've got our diced tomatoes. And I'm going to set those aside. And I'm going to go ahead and heat up a skillet. I've got a skillet right up here, and we're going to turn that heat on. And I'm going to go maybe about medium heat. I don't want to go too fast here. And I'm going to put some oil in the pan, or fat in the pan. And my fat is going to be a combination of butter and olive oil. And I'm using both because butter brings the flavor, but it burns at a lower temperature than oil. So by adding oil, I can raise the smoke point of my butter, simply meaning I can get this to a higher temperature and my butter doesn't start to burn, because burnt butter gives off a bitter flavor, and that's not good flavor for anyone involved. So I'll get that just melting, just until it's sizzling. And then I'm going to go ahead and add my onion to the pan. Starting to see some bubbles right there, which is a good sign. And that's the sizzle you want to hear on a hot pan. You don't want to add anything to a pan and not hear that sound. That means the fat or the oil has not heated up enough, and you end up absorbing more fat into the food than you probably want to. So that's a good sound right there. Now I'm going to, I always, whenever I cook a vegetable or saute a vegetable ahead of time, I add just a teeny bit of salt. I think it really helps bring out the flavor of the vegetable. So that isn't going to make the onions taste salty. I think they just taste more oniony. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to saute these until they are translucent, which just means that they're a little bit more see-through than what they are as a raw onion. And got people jumping ship here. There we go. This probably isn't going to take any more than about 3 minutes, so it's going to be a real quick cook. And some of these things, as you're going through their day, you have plenty of things to do, especially as a caretaker. A lot of these things can be done in advance. You can pre-cook your grits and then just pack those away and then pull out portions as you want to cook up dishes. Even things like sauteing some vegetables. You could always saute them ahead of time and then pop them in individual baggies or storage containers for individual servings, and then pull them out as you need them, and on the day you're going to serve them, just finish the preparation. So it makes it nice and convenient for everybody that's already really, really busy. So here I've got those onions cooking, and they're getting pretty close. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add the garlic that we minced. And I'm going to be real quick about this because garlic does tend to burn if you allow it to and if you cook it too long. So I'm going to constantly keep that moving. And I'm going to cook this only until I get the odor or the fragrance of the garlic. I'm not going to go any farther than that. That's why I wanted to get that real fine mince on the garlic so that we don't have any big pieces, because they're really only quick cooked. And I totally get both the onions and the garlic right now. So for this, I am just about done for the moment. Great color on the onions. Not a lot of brown, just that nice translucence we were talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to, actually, before I do this, I'm going to grab a bowl to put them in. There we go. I'm going to lower that heat for just a moment. I'm going to grab that pan and get our onions and garlic out of there. So fragrant. Oh, it smells so, so good. And I have the flavor of the butter in that skillet as well. So now I'm going to put my pan back on. I'm going to set those aside. I'm going to add just a little bit more oil to my pan. I'm going to get my heat back up there. And I'm going to take my shrimp, which have all those seasonings coating them. And I'll go ahead and lay my shrimp in that pan. I can hear that sizzle. It's exactly what I want. And all of those powdered seasonings, the seasoning salt, the black pepper, the smoked paprika, the garlic, the onion, just going to bring so much great flavor to the shrimp. And shrimp are delicious. They're abundant. They're easily available. And they are so quick to cook. You're not going to need more than a minute, 2 minutes to each side, and they are done. So we don't want to overcook them. They'll be tough and rubbery if we do. So just a quick sear on both sides. As soon as those are done, I'm going to add back in my other vegetables, my onion, my diced tomato, and my shrimp. Shrimp you can buy, spinach. Spinach you can buy. This is baby spinach. This is what I use a lot, and it only takes a minute in the skillet because it's very tender, and we just want that to ever so slightly wilt. We don't want to cook it to death. So I'm going to go ahead and take a peek at my shrimp. They're looking a little opaque, meaning they're turning white on the cooked side. So we'll give them just a minute there. And I think we've probably reached the 10-minute mark for our grits. So in a minute here, I'm going to be turning that back on the heat, and we're going to get those back up to a boil. Oh, look at those shrimp. There's got to be some Forrest Gump fans out there thinking shrimp. If not, I just sounded very strange. All right, I'm going to get these turned over. And we've got a nice crust on those from those pretty seasonings that we added. And because I'm going to add other vegetables, I don't want to overcook these. I'm going to start adding in my vegetables right now. I'm going to add those onions back in. I'm going to add my tomatoes. And I'm going to add my spinach. And I'm going to let all that cook, and it's not going to take very long at all. Clean the area. All right, so let's go ahead and take our top off here. We're going to go ahead and turn those grits. Do you see how plump they got? You see how a lot of the liquid, that chicken stock, was absorbed? That's exactly what that time was meant for. So I'm going to turn that up, and I'm going to whisk. And just in case somebody does not know, bay leaves are not meant to be eaten. They're a flavoring, but it's not anything that you actually want to eat. So as I'm stirring around here, I found my bay leaf. He's done what he needed to do. I'm going to go ahead and remove him so nobody gets that in their dish. And we are going to cook these grits until they just come up to the boil. I'm going to give my shrimp another little toss. And those tomatoes are starting to give up their liquid, so that'll create just a little bit of a light sauce for us. There we go. Looking so, so good. Fresh, bright colors you eat with your eyes. I mean, don't you want to eat that? Exactly. So, our grits are boiling. I'm going to grab our final ingredients. All right, so what I have here is I've got a little extra stock in case I think I need it, which I think I do. I'm just going to drizzle a tiny little bit in there. Yeah. And then different people like their grits different ways, different thicknesses. You know, some people like real thick grits. Other people like them a little thinner, a little soupier. I like mine sort of in between, but I've got that. All right, we have achieved a cooked grit. So I'm going to take this off the heat. And at this point, I'm going to add in some butter that I've cut up. Start to mix that in just a little bit. I have shredded Parmesan cheese right here that I shredded from a wedge of Parmesan. If you use canned or jarred Parmesan, you know, the one with the green cap, that's perfect as well. You can use that. Tastes just as good. Get that mixed up just so it melts a little bit. And then I've got heavy cream. You can use milk. It won't be as thick. But I like the richness that the cream gives you. Like I said, I'm all about having good flavors for people to really enjoy the dish. I don't want anybody feeling like they're being denied. You know, getting nutrition and getting food in for people is so important that I just think that any way you can punch some extra flavor into a recipe is the way to go. So of course, finally, before we serve this to anybody, we're going to want to give it a taste and make sure it tastes right. So let me grab my tasting fork right there. Well, I know what I'm having today. So let's go ahead and we'll get our bowl. We will get a different fork. We'll go ahead. See, kind of in between, not real thick. They're a little loose. There we go. And after that, I'm going to go ahead and top that with some tomatoes and spinach and onion. And then I'm going to go ahead and top that with a couple or a few of those shrimp. And then I am going to finish everything off with just a little more Parmesan cheese because I think I should. Just run that on the grater right there. Just let it rain. And there you have it. Classic shrimp and grits with so much flavor, there isn't anybody that wouldn't enjoy a giant bowl of that. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I am sure I will see you again soon. Thank you.